So, what's on the table? What's up for negotiation? What would Prime Minister Carney be willing to do to get a trade deal with the Trump administration? Speaking at an event in Kelowna, British Columbia, where he was announcing more than $1 billion in financial aid for the softwood lumber industry, Prime Minister Carney sounded as though he's in no rush to sign a deal with Trump because the entire trade deal with the Americans is up for review next year.
85% of the trade between Canada and the United States is tariff-free. That's our exports to the United States, that's U.S. exports to Canada. And we recognize that. We recognize very much the United States reaffirmation of this core element of CUSMA, or what they would call USMCA. So reserve that's important to reinforce that. And part of our discussions is about that. We are also very cognizant that in about 9 months from now, the first review of USMCA, CUSMA as we call it, will begin between the three parties. So there's a bigger picture there.
In recent days, high-ranking people in the Trump administration have suggested Canada's mistake was to retaliate for the U.S. tariffs, and that if counter tariffs were lowered or dropped, there could be a breakthrough. Prime Minister Carney seemed to suggest it's something his government might do.
We have always said that we will apply tariffs where they had the maximum impact in the United States and a minimum impact in Canada. And so we don't automatically adjust. We look at what we can do for our industry that's most effective. In some cases, that will be to remove tariffs. We have removed some tariffs over time so that, for example, the auto industry can function more effectively. And we'll look at opportunities to do so, because in the end, we're looking at having the best impact in Canada.
When the Prime Minister was asked if he has spoken with Donald Trump recently, the answer was no.
I haven't spoken to the President in recent days. We'll speak when it makes sense.
Following a tour of the West Coast, the Prime Minister is back in Ottawa now. He is chairing a cabinet meeting today, and then it's a virtual meeting with the premiers. The leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, is talking trade and tariffs too these days. Poilievre was in Drumheller, Alberta, as he continues his campaign in a by-election in the riding of Battle River Crowfoot. Poilievre claimed Carney broke a promise to Canadians.
Mark Carney has been Prime Minister for over 140 days, and still the tariffs are there and rising. The Liberals have been in power for a decade with 3 presidents, and the tariffs are only growing. Mark Carney promised us that he would put elbows up, that he would handle Trump, and that he would negotiate a win by ending the tariffs. He's broken all of those promises. And we know President Trump is someone that nobody can control, but that's why it was wrong for Mr. Carney to promise that he could do so. Ever since Mark Carney became Prime Minister, there have been more tariffs and rising tariffs, contrary to Mr. Carney's own promises.
Meanwhile, it's day 2 of a 2-day visit for 2 Carney cabinet ministers in Mexico. The Minister of Finance, Francois Philippe Champagne, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Anita Anand, are still in Mexico. They met with the President of Mexico yesterday. Champagne is insisting Carney will engage with Trump strategically and do not worry about artificial deadlines.
One of the tenets of our strategy is to make sure that we get the right deal for Canada. And I think there is no need to rush into that. But to get the right deal, you need strategic engagement. And I think the way we've been doing with Minister LeBlanc, the way we've been doing, I've been talking to Secretary Besson, the Prime Minister has been talking to the President, obviously. Minister Anand also has been talking with their counterpart. I think you would see that Canada has been at the center of a lot of these discussions. We preside the G7. I can tell you, as the President of the G7 Finance Minister, there's always discussions around that. We try to air these, my role has always been to keep unity, but at the same acknowledge that we need to restore stability and growth, and therefore engaging with our partners has been the right strategy.
As for Donald Trump, he is again defending his tariff plan and saying other countries have been taking advantage of the United States.
I think we are doing probably, maybe in many ways, better than we've ever done before. You know, we're taking in trillions, not billions, trillions and trillions of dollars from other countries who, for years, took advantage of us. They took advantage of the United States like we were children, and that's not happening anymore. Now they're paying a lot of money, and they're paying hundreds of billions of dollars. Individual countries paying hundreds of billions of dollars. You're seeing what everybody else is seeing. And we have a lot of things we can do. You know, one of the questions asked of me this morning is, are you going to make a dividend to the people? And the purpose of what I'm doing is primarily to pay down debt, which will happen in very large quantity. But I think there's also a possibility that we're taking in so much money that we may very well make a dividend to the people of America.
For Canada, it still remains the case that goods that comply with CUSMA, the free trade deal, are excluded from the most recent rounds of tariffs. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know, and this is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow
Returns on News Radio.
Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston is not messing around. With much of his province experiencing very dry conditions with very little rain in the forecast, and with some parts of the province already imposing water restrictions, the Premier is banning people from the woods because of the fire risk. As of now, hiking, camping, fishing, the use of ATVs in wooded areas is banned for the rest of the summer. Premier Houston suggested it's a situation that is keeping him up at night.
We're watching what's happening out west with the wildfires really across the country. And it's certainly bring up memories and fears of what this province went through just 2 short years ago. We're seeing municipalities in Nova Scotia begin to take water conservation action with really no end in sight to this dry spell that we're experiencing right now in Nova Scotia. We're hearing from rural fire departments that are worried about low water levels in the ponds and lakes that they use, and really about their overall ability to respond to emergencies. And across the country, there are over 700 fires burning. Natural resource departments across the entire country are stretched very thin right now. So like Minister Rushton and Scott and the whole team, and so many Nova Scotians, I'm losing sleep about what's happening.
Central Nova Scotia is considered right now to be suffering from a moderate drought. Most other parts of the province are described as abnormally dry. There are mandatory water restrictions in effect in Annapolis County and 7 other municipalities stretching from the eastern parts of Nova Scotia to the far western parts of the province. They're asking people to conserve water. Just a few days ago, Premier Houston announced a burn ban for the entire province. That is supposed to remain in effect until the middle of October.
As tinder dry conditions continue to persist from one end of the province to the other, the risk of wildfires increases, and the risk is very, very high right now. We've had briefings from Environment Canada about the near-term forecast, and there is no significant rain in sight. This means more dryness, and it means more risk. We're here today because the experts have advised, and we agree, that more precautionary steps are required. We have to stay in front of this. We can take steps while we are in the middle of trying to fight fires, or we can be proactive and try to prevent them. And we have chosen to be proactive and try to prevent fires. So based on the recommendations of Scott Tingley and his team, they recommended, and we agree with the following. Effective 4 p.m. today, we're telling Nova Scotians, stay out of the woods. We are restricting travel and activities that really aren't necessary for most of us. Hiking, camping, fishing, and the use of vehicles in the woods are not permitted. Trail systems through woods are off limits. Camping is allowed, but only in official campgrounds. The fine for violating any of these bans is the same as the fine for the ban on burning, $25,000. And if you're a smoker, for God's sakes, be mindful of where you're butting your butt out. If you don't and you cause a fire, we will hold you accountable.
Members of the public can still go to the beach or to a park, and people with cottages or campsites on private land are being asked to follow the same kind of restrictions.
We strongly encourage you to stay out of those woods, regardless of where they are. Please don't do anything that could unnecessarily put you, your family, or your neighbors at risk. This situation sucks. Summer is one of the best times in Nova Scotia, and we all look forward to getting outdoors and enjoying our scenic beauty that surrounds us. I get that, and I'm right there with you as Nova Scotians. But you can still go to the beach. In fact, that's a great place to be on these hot, dry days. Just no bonfires. If there's a short trail to get from point A to point B, like from the parking to the beach or to the lake to fish, that's fine. But that's it. No heading into the woods to spend time there. I know it's inconvenient. I know it's the height of summer vacation and people want to do all the activities that we so much enjoy in our great outdoors. We have a beautiful province. I know everybody wants to enjoy it, but we have to stay out of the woods. It's a small price to pay right now to avoid the kind of devastation that we saw from the wildfires in 2023.
Those fires in 2023 were some of the worst in Nova Scotia's history. The Barrington Lake Fire in Shelburne County was the largest ever recorded in Nova Scotia. And the Tantallon Fire forced the evacuation of 16,000 people and destroyed more than 150 homes. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
It sure does, because everything continues until it doesn't. If you're ever looking for a podcast of our show, Now You Know with Rob Snow, we have a new mobile app that will help you hear our show when you want to. Listen live, listen to the podcast. It's called the Seeker app. That's Seeker, spelled S-E-E-K-R. It has all kinds of exclusive audio that you won't hear anywhere else. News, music, and sports. And you can download Seeker for iOS or Android. That's Seeker, spelled S-E-E-K-R. And Now You Know with Rob Snow is also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. Speaking of podcasts, I am also featured on today's edition of the Big Story podcast on the Frequency Podcast Network, alongside News Radio's Mark Day. It's been 100 days since the federal election. The federal election was April 28th. Here we are. It's the 6th day of August, so 100 days. And we took a look back at Mark Carney's 100 days since the election. Mark Carney, 100 days since the federal election. The highlights, the not so highlights, and some of the things to look at in the next 100 days as well. So if you want to check that out, check out the Big Story podcast on the Frequency Podcast Network, also on the Seeker app. I'm watching Major League Baseball, of course. The Toronto Blue Jays. My gosh, the Colorado Rockies are just what the Toronto Blue Jays ordered. Last place team versus a first place team. The Jays hitters, I mean, they are feasting on Rockies pitching. The Jays pounded the Rockies again yesterday. Final score 10-4. So that means through the first two games of this series, the Jays have outscored the Rockies 25-5. 25-5. The Jays had another 14 hits yesterday. Dalton Varsho hit a pair of 2-run homers and a 2-run double. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 3 hits, including a home run, his 17th. Addison Barger also homered for his 17th on the season. That's a personal best for him. On the mound was pitcher Jose Barrios for the Jays, moved to 8-4 on the season, worked 5 1/3, gave up 4 runs, 3 earned. The Jays, 39 hits through the first 2 games of this series, just one shy of the club record for a 2-game stretch. And the Jays, they need these wins to stay atop the American League East, because don't look now, but the Boston Red Sox are surging. The Bo Sox now winners of 7 straight after taking care of the Kansas City Royals yesterday by a score of 6-2. So the Jays are still atop the American League East, 3 games up now on the Red Sox, and 6.5 games up ahead of the Yankees, who are without Aaron Judge. They're in a terrible slump. They've lost 5 in a row, and they're barely hanging on to the final wildcard spot in the American League. They're just half a game up on Texas. So the Jays back at it in Colorado again today, 3:10 Eastern time. First pitch for the Jays game today, and then the road trip continues. Jays travel to Los Angeles for a series against the Dodgers. That starts on Friday night. And of course, you can watch all the Blue Jays action on Sportsnet, and you can listen to all the Jays games on the radio at 95.7 News Radio in Halifax, 570 News Radio in Kitchener, and in Calgary on Sportsnet, 960 The Fan. Coming up, it is our Newsday panel with a pair of hardcore politicos today. Cam Holmstrom, longtime New Democrat, although voted Liberal, he told me, in the last federal election. He is principal at Nipaway Strategies. He's going to join us. And Gary Keller is a longtime conservative, actually ran as a conservative candidate in the last federal election. Didn't win, ran in a riding around the North Bay area. Gary, a longtime political person on Parliament Hill, has worked for cabinet ministers, including John Baird in the past. And these days, he calls Strategy Corps home, where he's vice president. So that is just ahead. Hardcore political panel coming up. It's our Newsday panel. I'm Rob Snow, and this is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Well, it is time for our Newsday panel. Seriously political focus today. Cam Holmstrom is back with us, the principal at Nipaway Strategies. How are you, Cam?
Rob, very good. Out enjoying the prairie air here in Winnipeg today.
Oh, that's good. Good for you. Excellent. Is it not smoky there in Winnipeg? Not smoky, Cam?
It's not as bad as it's been when I arrived in the area last week. So and we got some good rain today, so hopefully that's helping with the fires.
Oh, that's good. Okay, that's good news, actually. All right, Gary Keller is back with us, Vice President of Strategy Corps. How are you these days, Gary?
I'm great, thank you very much. Enjoying the nice summer in Ontario. So,
okay, good for you, Gary. All right. Well, I'm glad both of you could join us today. Our focus, political types like this, 100 days, the first 100 days. It's not really Mark Carney's first 100 days. He was prime minister before the election, but it's 100 days since the election. So it's a nice round number. It's a nice benchmark that we can jump off of. And we simply want to review some of the highlights, some of the not so highlights for Prime Minister Carney and the Liberal government so far in the last 100 days? This is going to take up most of our time today. But let me ask you this. Gary Keller, how has Mark Carney proven to be different from Justin Trudeau?
Well, it's a great question, and I think, frankly, it's simply the most evident way is simply in the way he does business. You know, with Mr. Trudeau, the announcement was the policy. It was all about making a big show and being emotional about it and touchy-feely politics. In the wake of Donald Trump's election in the United States, and after almost 10 years of Trudeau being in power, that was clearly on the way out, and people were sick and tired of that approach. So Mr. Carney's approach, he is not necessarily about the visual and the announcement and connecting with people. I think is a huge difference. Whether you agree with it or not is another thing. I think Canadians have generally were sick and tired of the Justin Trudeau approach. But I think that is the most evident, most front of mind difference that Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Carney have had.
Okay. What would you say, Cam? Mark Carney, how is he different, and how is he shown to be different from Justin Trudeau?
Well, I'd agree with Gary's assessment on the approach. That's been clearly different, which honestly I think is refreshing and good. But I would also just notice on the policy side of things, he's gone back and pulled back policies that the former prime minister had in place, right? That's a pretty stark cut to make, especially right at the start of a prime ministership, to basically admit that, look, you were heading down the wrong path. I'm pulling it back, especially when you got so many members of that cabinet and caucus who were there to put it in place, right? So it does make you wonder a little bit about how everyone in the caucus feels, if they're happy about it, being gone, or if they were ever happy about it being there to begin with. Either way, to me, that marks a big change and a big difference. The other thing that I would notice with him, again, it's just how he carries himself. It comes across as so much more different. And you know what? When you hear Justin Trudeau speak, because of how he is and just his persona, it was sometimes very hard to take him seriously. You know, when I listen to Mark Carney and you just hear how he goes about things, it's hard not to take him seriously. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just who he is and how he comes about it. You know, and I think, again, that's kind of a calming influence in this moment. And that really strikes out when you compare it to the opposition, right? When you compare it to all the different opposition leaders, because the others, you know, may be a little bit more emotional, maybe less intellectual on certain things, less facts-based on certain things. Or in the case of my party, they may not even exist. But the fact of the matter is that it makes a really stark difference, right, for what your options are in front of you. And I think that's kept people comforted to this point.
Then let me ask you this, okay? How is he the same? How is he the same as Justin Trudeau? Gary, is he the same at all in some ways?
Well, I mean,
both liberals?
He's got, you know, he's inherited virtually the same people that were around Mr. Trudeau making the same decisions for the past 9 or 10 years. You know, people's taxes have gone up, their cost of living has gone up, the rent and the mortgage has gone up. You know, I always say to people in election campaigns, we'll be rewarding the same people as over years. And so there are a lot of similarities there. But I think even talking to some liberals in and around Ottawa, even the way Mr. Carney does business internally is very, very different. Like, he has an agenda and he is trying to carry it through at the same time while actually trying to empower cabinet ministers to make decisions about him micromanaging day to day. I mean, I think but at the end of the day, these are the same people, and it's been, you know, quite something to watch a bunch of them try to jettison their past performance as Trudeau cabinet ministers.
Yeah. Yeah, gold medals for squirming, I must say. There's some cabinet ministers in Ottawa own the podium, you guys. Okay, so the people around him, Gary is saying, are there ways where Mark Carney's the same as Justin Trudeau?
Well,
Cam, what do you think?
I disagree a bit with Gary, is that a lot of the caucus and the cabinet are the same. A lot of the staff behind him are totally different, and that's an issue that I'll come back to later. But yeah, you know, the fact of the matter is that there's only so far you can distance yourself from your predecessor and you come in like this, right? He's done a good job of that. but he's only gone so far. He can only go so far. And I think where this is really going to hit where that rubber's really going to hit the road is when they come back in the fall, we start talking about public service cuts and things like that. I think that's where maybe that difference will get much more stark. But when it comes down to it, is that, yeah, he's had 100 days, of which the House has sat for, 30 at most. He hasn't had a lot of time to make himself look that much different. So I guess he's different, but he's also similar by default because he hasn't had that much time to separate himself.
Okay. When we come back, successes where he's fallen short and surprises. It's our Newsday panel. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know, here with Cam Holmstrom and Gary Keller. 100 days since the federal election was all said and done. Let's be right back here on News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
We're here again with Cam Holmstrom, principal at Neboy Strategies, and Vice President of Strategy Court, Gary Keller. It's been 100 days since the last federal election. We've been talking about the Carney's record, such as it is so far. Cam, what have been some of the successes for Prime Minister Mark Carney?
I would argue the biggest success he's gotten so far is getting through his first session. You know what? He's a few seats short of majority, and he's just bowled ahead, and he's done what he's going to do. He's been delivering on what he's promised. And yeah, like Gary kind of pointed out to earlier, he's changed the tone of how the place operates, especially within the cabinet. You know, we were ripe for a return to the era of responsible cabinet, and I'm glad to see that happen. And I would argue that's probably his biggest success so far in this short period, aside from getting elected, which, let's be honest, wasn't exactly a foregone conclusion.
Oh, no. Okay. All right. What do you think have been some of Mark Carney's successes, Gary?
Well, I think his number one success so far has being a chameleon. Remember, the last election was all going to be elbows up. We're going to fight the Americans tooth and nail. We just passed the August 1st trade deadline, and we're told these are complex negotiations. And both the media and Canadians are saying, "Oh, okay, I guess." I think it's fascinating watching how he has been able to operate in that chameleon status. I can't tell from day to day. It's elbows up, elbows down, elbows akimbo. What the play is, but the fact that he has maintained in polling his general popularity, I think, is obviously a great success for that. The other thing I would say has been a success was getting Bill C-5 passed through the spring session of Parliament with opposition support. Now, the opposition parties amended that bill, but they got it done together. And I think, the window to do some of that cross-partisanship work is narrow, but it's there, and it probably is there a little bit in the fall yet. And so getting C-5 isn't just a success for him. I think it's a success for all parties in the House of Commons.
Okay. Does he get any credit? Just C-5 is primarily about projects in the national interest. It was also about Free Trade by Canada Day. Would you consider that to be one of his successes here early on, Cam? What do you think about that, C-5?
It should have been, but it's not. And I'll tell you why. And this comes back to the comment I made earlier about the staff he has surrounded himself with. Most new leaders, when they come in, they know what they know what they don't know, and they bring in people to help them bone up on what they don't know. Mark Carney, for all of his background and his lived experience, knows vanishing little about Indigenous peoples, Indigenous nations, Indigenous rights, and has next to no relationships with them. And he has proceeded, knowing that, to do nothing. And that's why C-5 was such a failure. You had this rare moment where almost every single Indigenous nation in this country was saying, look, we're with you. We understand this needs to be done. Let's just work on this together, take a little bit more time, and get this right up front. And Mr. Carney, instead, he was elbows up all right, elbows up right across the cheek and both middle fingers flying in their direction instead. And in the process, created a problem where there didn't need to be a problem. He turned allies into enemies. And it was just honestly, by carelessness and not knowing it was an own goal. And to me, that's the saddest part about this is whenever I heard a First Nations leader, Métis leader, and Inuit leader saying, we agree with you, we need to do this, right? And he didn't grab that hand in partnership and say, okay, let's do this together. To me, that was a mistake of arrogance. And yeah, it's ironically repeating a mistake that Justin Trudeau would have made. To me, it's one he didn't have to do to himself, and he did. So yeah, C5 could have been a flying success, but instead, he knew best. He ignored what he didn't know, and now you've got opponents. I just saw the press conference from the president of the Manitoba Métis Federation talking about how he's not going to the Métis event, a summit tomorrow because of this stuff, right? So, Mr. Carney, you did that to yourself. Nobody else did it.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective. I want to talk about surprises and if there was a moment in time, say, in the last 100 days that has surprised you. I think, for me, this is my own personal opinion. The biggest surprise from him has been this announcement on Palestine and recognizing a Palestinian state. There was nothing about that during the election campaign. It's a departure from decades of foreign policy in this country. Gary, I mean, you're kind of the guy with the foreign affairs chops here on this panel. I was shocked by that. Not just surprised. I was shocked by that. I could see like a new Democrat prime minister doing that or something, but not Mark Carney. What did you think about that?
I was not surprised, given the timing when it happened after Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, basically said he would recognize a Palestinian state without conditions, and Keir Starmer said he would recognize a Palestinian state with conditions. This is very much Canadian foreign policy 101. We don't lead on anything. We always follow by example. And I think Carney's relationship with those two people, I think that relationship probably influenced him to take a decision on that he didn't want to feel like he was left behind. So once that was percolating that well, and let me be very clear, I fundamentally disagree with that agreement. The reward for the heinous events of October 7th, 2023 cannot be the recognition of a Palestinian state. And I think he made a mistake. I think that was a grave mistake, but will he pay a political price for that? To your point, Rob, that was not talked about at all during the election campaign as a policy priority. Will he pay a political price for it? No, I don't think he will sadly pay a political price for that.
All right. You can weigh in on that, Cam, but you'll have to wait until we come back. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
It's time. Six 668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. And today we want to do something a little bit different. We want you to tell us about Gen Z or Gen Z. Some people call them Zoomers, however you happen to say it. People who were born between the years 1997 and 2012. That's what we're talking about here, Gen Z. They are now between the ages of 13 years old and 28 years old. So we're talking about young teenagers to fully formed grown-ups. With your help today, we want to learn as much as we can about people who are part of this generation. So if you are one or know one, help us out. Give us a call. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Surely to goodness, you know people who are this age. Okay. Maybe you have people living in your house who are in this age group. Or maybe you are a member of this generation. Maybe you're one of them. Maybe you're listening now, you're in your 20s. Tell us about yourself, the people you know who are the same as you. Okay? Gen Z, Gen Z, Zoomers. I was reading a report. This is what prompted me to want to discuss this on Talkback today. I was reading a report. It was done by the consulting firm Deloitte. It's a major report that Deloitte does every year. They've done it for 14 years now about millennials and Gen Z. And I mean, what it says is these people are going to be running the show soon enough. Okay? By the year 2030, 74% of the workforce will include members of Gen Z and the millennials. By the year 2030, okay, we're talking 5 years, less than 5 years from now, 74% of the workforce. We will be working with them. In some cases, we might be working for them. And that's why we want to focus on Gen Z today. So tell us, what motivates Gen Z in your experience? What do they want out of life? What are their value systems? What's important to them? And what's not important to them? Might be just as interesting. What challenges do you think they face that may be, say, unique to that generation, Gen Z? What do they worry about? How do those worries compare to the worries of people of other generations, older generations, previous generations? And here's a big question for you. Do you think life is harder, easier, or about the same for members of Gen Z compared to other generations? The millennials, Gen Xers, that's me, the baby boomers. Is the life of someone who is Gen Z, is it harder? Is it easier? Is it about the same as your life, your parents' life? Assuming you're either a member of Gen Z or not a member of Gen Z. Give it some thought, okay? Give it some thought. Give us a call. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. 13 to 28 years old. Oh, to be young again. Or maybe not so much. Think about what this generation has been through and what their life experiences have been so far. They've always had the internet. They have always had the internet. And for the youngest members of this generation, they've always had the mobile internet. They don't know life without a phone that is connected to the internet. And for most of their lives, they have always known social media. Social media has had, an enormous influence on their lives. They have grown up fully immersed in the digital culture. Generally speaking, there are always going to be exceptions. Of course, these are more or less generalizations about a generation, but they're more environmentally aware, more concerned about the environment than previous generations, more concerned about environmental issues, climate change, and the like. And again, just generalizations about a generation, much more open about mental health and mental health issues. And that, in fact, is a key factor in how they view the workplace and their place in the workplace, because many aim to strike a healthy work-life balance, try to avoid burnout, which opens members of this generation up to accusations of being lazy. Depression and anxiety have been described as widespread among members of this generation. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit. Social isolation is a problem. They embrace social justice movements. Not afraid to talk about issues around race, sexual orientation, gender identity, and they have many concerns, many worries, many challenges. Among the biggest, financial concerns, high cost of living, high cost of housing, precarious employment, gig work. According to this report from Deloitte, the most important thing for Gen Z in the workplace is purpose. Do you think that's a change? It's purpose. A sense of purpose is vital. Is vital. Number one, top of the list. When they think about job satisfaction, work has to have purpose. Most, not all, most don't have any interest in climbing the corporate ladder. They value personal learning and development. They would rather see managers as mentors rather than, say, task assigners. And we all know the stereotypes. But how accurate are they? Gen Z, always online, addicted to the phones, can't live without the phones, obsessed with social media, short attention spans, lazy, hop from one job to the other, no sense of loyalty to an employer, not interested in 9 to 5, want more money but don't want to put in the work, easily offended, snowflakes. They need constant supervision and constant validation, and they are woke. Are they accurate, those stereotypes? I don't know how many of those stereotypes are actually accurate. That's why we're asking you today. Tell us about Gen Z. Tell us about that person you know, that young person you know. Maybe it's you. What do they like? What makes them tick? What do they like to work with? What do they want to be when they grow up? Do they have a good head on their shoulders, or do they have their heads in the clouds? And do you think life is harder for them than it was for previous generations? Please take part in the conversation today. If it comes across as an exercise in generational warfare, so be it. Our only goal is to learn more about Gen Z over the next couple of hours with your help. 1-833-668-2577. If you've never called before, give us a try. Hey, Gen Z, it's called Call-In Talk Radio. Some of you will be on the AM dial. That used to be a big thing back in the day. Phone lines are open now. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. It's Talk Back on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We're trying something a little different today. Talking about the generations, okay? In particular, today, Gen Z. Tell us about Gen Z. Your impressions, your experiences, your relationships with people who are members of Gen Z, born 1997 to 2012. So we're talking about people between the ages of 13 and 28. All right? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. What makes them tick? What's important to them? What do they want out of life? And is their life harder? Is it easier? Is it about the same for Gen Z than it was for previous generations? What would you say? Lots of phone lines available there. Love to hear from you. I have to tell you, I've worked with lots of people who are in this generation, Gen Z, people in their 20s. So older people who are members of Gen Z. In my experience for the most part, it's been positive. A few exceptions here and there, but they're so few and far between. It hasn't soured me on working alongside Gen Zers or Zoomers. I'm kind of a right of center guy, always have been. That can cause some fireworks from time to time, but the older I get, I'm kind of mellowing out. I'm not as ideologically rigid as I used to be, and I'm more willing to hear people out and broaden my horizons and get out of my comfort zone from time to time. Not all the time, but from time to time. Most of the people that I have worked with who have been Gen Z, I'm telling you, real go-getters. That's been my experience, real go-getters. Maybe that's not been your experience. Hard workers, willing to show up on time, put in the work, do the job. Honest to goodness, most of the people I worked with who were in their, say, late teens, early 20s, most of them had more than one job. A lot of them had two jobs. So I would say my exposure to working with Gen Z in the workplace, been pretty positive experience. What about you? That's just me. What about you? 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Let's go to Tara from Kitchener. Hello, Tara.
Hi, how are you today, Rob?
I'm good, Tara. All the better for hearing from you. Thank you so much.
Oh, wonderful.
For calling. What's on your mind? What's your opinion today on Gen Z? Tell me about Gen Z. What's your experience been?
Well, I can speak. I'm an educational assistant. I am 53, so we have a 21-year-old son as well. So our son is we have a very, I would say, good work ethic, and we've instilled that in him. Like, he's a lifeguard and swim instructor, and he had to work towards that. But I do find, because he's taking his computer science degree now, that when you said the focus, like, he really wants to have purpose. in his work.
Purpose,
And
yeah.
he's mentioned that
Yeah.
to me. And that work-life balance, I think that's something we did not discuss. You know, we worked 2 or 3 jobs, we worked our butts off, but we were able to afford apartments. We were able to afford down payments on houses. Whereas I don't see his generation being able to do that. I moved out when I was 18. He's not going to have that same opportunity. I mean, he's 21 and still living at home with us. Like, he is not going to have that opportunity.
Yeah. This idea, his work has to have purpose.
Yes.
This is the number one thing when,
Yeah.
say, they do a survey or a study of members of Gen Z who are in the workforce. What kind of work do you want to do? I want to do work that fulfills a sense of purpose. It's bigger than money. It's bigger than vacation or benefits or any of this. What do you think that means? Purpose. What do you think that means?
I think that he has a very moral, like he feels like a moral obligation to do something good in the world, which I think is amazing. I mean, I wanted to work to pay bills and get ahead, right? I really didn't think about my work. But now, like, I'm an educational assistant, so believe me, I do not get paid enough for my job some days, but I love my job because I love working with children, and I love working with students.
Okay.
So it took me longer to get to that value, I think, and I think it's really interesting. And, you know, like, he's got Instagram, but he just sends memes to his friends. Like, they're not on Instagram, like, they don't give a crap about that stuff. Like, it's a really interesting dynamic. Like, a lot of his friends really are not on social media that much, so I don't know if that switches things. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I was really interested in this idea that purpose, they're leading what they hope to be purpose-driven lives. Maybe we could focus on that a little bit as we make our way through the day. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tara. Great first call today. Good to hear from you. All right. We have 3 lines available there, 4 lines available there now. 1-833-668-2577. What makes Gen Z tick? What's important to them? What do they want out of life? And is their life harder? Is it easier? About the same. What would you say? Than previous generations. 1-833-668-2577 to join the discussion on Talkback today here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Gen Z, people born between 1997 and 2012, between the ages of 13 and 28. We want to know more about Gen Z. Tell us about Gen Z, what makes them tick, what's important to them, what do they want out of life? Is their life harder than previous generations? What would you say? 1-833-668-2577 to Tammy in Nova Scotia. Hello, Tammy. Thanks for calling. You're on the air. What's your opinion?
Hi, Rob. I just want to say I really love your show and how fair and respectful you are to your callers. I just adore you. So anyway, I'm a Gen X. I'm a Gen X, and I have and I have a son who's a Gen Z. And one of the things, I have a lot of respect for this generation. Now, I went through a really tough upbringing with my son. He had, you know, there was a lot of anxiety issues, like they say. But I think what you said about a sense of purpose is really important. Once he found that meaningful sense of purpose, he's, you know, doing very well. He's in the service now, and I'm very proud of him. But he needed that, and money is important to them, like getting ahead, fairness in society. They don't like all these special groups. Well, I'm just speaking on what I hear from him and his friends. They want equality. They do really have a dislike for the baby boomer generation.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think because they feel they're so detached from what's happening at their level, because a lot of them are struggling to get homes and get ahead in life, and a lot of them are disillusioned.
Type job, right? That career type job, and kind of be set in life, sort of set up, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And, you know, where baby boomers are kind of safe and in their own little bubbles, where these new Gen Zs are trying to make and earn, and to buy a home, to do anything, it's very disillusioning for them. So, but I find they're very wise. I don't know,
really?
there are a lot of similarities, I think, to our generation in some of their wisdom. I know my son was a bit of a wildling, so I don't know. There's, I think, with that sense of purpose, I think they really could do a lot of positive things in the future. Just their common sense is there. Whereas
It's apparently what's most important to them when they enter the workforce. They really do feel as though their life their work has to contribute to society in some way and reflect their own personal values, if you know what I mean.
Yes, and from my son too, they want to be paid what they're worth. Like my generation, I felt, working for 75 cents on a farm, like my son would never do any of that. It was no, you're gonna pay me what I should be paid, and I really valued that outlook, because when we were growing up, it was like, well, we'll just take whatever we're given and be happy with that. But they don't have that outlook. They want the more quality life and get paid what they're worth.
A better work-life balance, kind of, right? Yeah,
absolutely.
That's very important. Yeah.
But I do think they have it hard, though. I really do.
You do?
Right,
you think they have it harder than we did? You think they have it harder than we did?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I knew I was going to have a home and a job and be able to afford things, but they're having a hard struggle living at home. A lot of them still with their parents and grandparents. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Thank you, Tammy. Good to hear from you. Thank you for those kind words. Really take that to heart. Be right back. The latest breaking news is coming up next. Then back to more of your phone calls and your opinions, talking about Gen Z. What makes them tick? This is News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Tell us about Gen Z, your experiences with Gen Z. How are they different than previous generations? Is their life harder, easier, about the same as previous generations? What would you say? We're talking about people born between 1997 and 2012. That's people between the ages of 13 and 28. What makes them tick, more or less? What's important to them? What do they want out of life? Share your experiences with us. Very quiet on the phone lines today. I thought this would be a popular topic, but maybe it's swing and a miss today. I will tell you one of the things that I've kind of found peculiar about younger generations compared to my generation. It's kind of perplexed me. Maybe you can help explain this to me. Members of Gen Z don't drive in nearly the same numbers that previous generations did. People in this age group, they don't get driver's license in nearly the same numbers as previous generations. That's a big shift. Compared to when I was growing up. When I was growing up, like hitting the age of 16, going for that driver's exam, like finally getting that driver's license, that was like a rite of passage. That was like freedom. I don't have to ask my dad to drive me anywhere. I don't have to ask my mom to drive me anywhere. I don't have to hitch a ride with one of my older friends. I am a licensed driver. Look out, world. And now I just have to convince my parents to let me borrow the car, or maybe scour the Auto Trader or the classifieds and find a clunker that I can put on the road for, $1,500. Now, it's not like that anymore. American data suggests that less than half of the Gen Z population has a driver's license now. Less than half of the Gen Z population has a driver's license. And by the time you hit 20 years old, it was in excess of 90% for Gen Xers had a driver's license. my generation. It's far lower now for Gen Z. I don't understand that. I've never really understood. Maybe it's an economic thing. Maybe it's, I don't know, is it the cost of the vehicle? Is it a cost of living as a reflection of the increased cost of living? Maybe it's a values thing. Maybe it is motivated by environmentalism. You know, taking the bus, riding a bike is better for the environment. Maybe it's a mental health thing. You know, anxiety rates being what they are, especially these, nobody wants to go viral in a road rage instance. Maybe it's all of these things. I've never really been able to narrow it down, this lack of interest in driving or owning a car with younger generations. Maybe they're waiting for the self-driving cars. What makes Gen X tick? Something a little different today. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. We've talked about this already with a couple of our callers. It's been reported members of Gen Z, when they're entering the workforce, they have to feel that their work gives them purpose, which I think is a positive thing, that their work has to give them purpose. But what does that mean? And do you think that's something new? Is that something different? My work needs to give me purpose. How do you see that? How do you interpret that? How do you see that playing out in the workplace? Is that how, for example, is that how you viewed work? 19, 20, 21 years old. Well, I'm only going to do work that gives me a sense of purpose. That entirely was not how I viewed work at the time. But it is apparently the major driver of workplace decisions and even life decisions for people who are part of this age group. That work must give them purpose, must align with their values. It must make them feel as though they're making a difference in their world or in their community. They won't work for companies who don't take climate change seriously or who don't see diversity as being important, or companies that don't offer mental health support programs, all of these things. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Michelle up next. Hello, Michelle. You're on the line. Michelle.
Hi, Rob. I'm the first-time caller.
I appreciate that, Michelle. Thank you so much. Coming to my rescue today.
Yeah. I've got three kids that are in that age group. Two of them are still at home. One's 20 and one's 24. And I think this generation, they really care about things deeply.
Yes.
The reason the two are at home is, you know, it's quite expensive to move out. Like, I think that struggle of, you know, getting enough to get rent together, get a job that's going to pay enough, like that is a real struggle.
Cost of living, right? Okay.
Yeah, cost of living, you know. I would say, you know, some of it, you know, we've kind of done this to this generation. I mean, I remember the kids getting, you know, basically awards just for showing up at school, you know, that kind of thing, like that idea
right. Yeah, participation medals. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like there's kind of, you know, and we've kind of created that in them, but like a slight less resiliency, I guess you would say, when challenges come up. They're a little bit struggling with that, and so maybe, you know, some of their expectations are different or elevated, but. You know, they just want the quality of life that they see other people having, not, you know, realizing, how do I get there, right? How do I work my way toward that? So I feel like there are more kind of blockages put in their way, because. So
you know, part of what we're asking here today is, do you think life is harder for them? You would say yes. I guess
I would say some aspects are yes, and that's put on by, you know, just the reality of the cost of living and what's available. But I also say that maybe what is necessary is for them to grow that resilience. Like, you know, we make mistakes in life, and that's what makes us stronger. You know, when we struggle, that's what makes us stronger. So not to be afraid of, you know, the challenges, because every generation is going to have, you know, unique challenges, but just not to have that fear, you know, of, you know, I'm going to take a small risk. I think previous generations were maybe more risk takers. I'm not sure. That might not be fair. I'm just basing it on my own kids.
On your own experience, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like maybe this generation that we're speaking about is maybe fearful to take risks. Maybe it's because there aren't the same safety nets in place for them that we may have had in older generations. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But
thank you for your call today. Good to hear from you, Michelle. And to hear your experience on Gen Z. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. I'm Rob Snow, back with more of your calls on Talkback. Share your thoughts, please, on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Tell me about Gen Z. Let's go to Brandon in Kitchener. Hi, Brandon.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
I'm good. Tell me about Gen Z.
So I fall in this age range. I'm 23 years old, and I'm an apprentice. I personally think, I'm not going to generalize the whole entirety of Gen Z, but I see a lot of people, I think, in my age range that are not motivated enough or driven enough to do much. And I think that a lot of the people in my age range should be taking some more risks, because I think if you don't take risks, there's no way you can learn from making a mistake or, finding a different way to do something. I think a lot of people, like I said, my age range are not, I don't think they do enough day to day. I don't think they're as interested in getting jobs or getting out and doing things as people were in your generation. And I'm not going to say that things aren't, it isn't hard to live right now, because I'd love to move out, but things are too expensive. But I definitely think that people my age could take a little more risk and do a little more to be independent, even if it's at home or things like that.
Okay. So do you think, for you and your friends and colleagues, do you think your life is, say, harder than what your parents had when they were trying to make their way in life? What would you say?
Well, like Michelle said, I think every generation is going to have its own unique challenges and hardships. But for my parents, I would say it depends on what you're talking about. I mean, there's certain aspects that would have been harder for them, I think, that are easier for us now, but harder for us now and easier for them.
Let's talk about it. Let's give us some examples here. Okay.
I think that back in the day,
getting a career type job, like a career type job where you could say, like, I could see myself doing this and making good money and whatever, and enjoying that work-life balance that people want. Buying a place of your own, maybe getting married and starting a family, like to do those big life things. Do you think it's harder for your generation than it was, say, for your parents?
I would say, certain things. It was easier for my parents to get a mortgage. It was easier for them to, live on a single income versus, like, if I got married, you have to have, I think, two people working now to be able to afford anything decent, or doing two people with decent jobs, or one person with a very decent job. So in certain aspects, I would say yes.
All right, Brandon. Thank you. All the best, sir. Thanks for the call.
You too.
Charlie up next, calling from Calgary, like the first call from Calgary today. No, second call from Calgary today. Hi, Charlie. What's your opinion here,
Hi,
Charlie?
how
Tell
you
me
doing?
about Gen Z. I'm good, Charlie. Thank you. Go ahead.
So I wanted to talk about a couple things. The license, in our generation, we would get a license right away.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
As opposed to the kids now. I think a little bit of that has to do with the fact that transportation back in our day was a little bit different. There were buses, obviously, but that the bus schedule was not regular. Like nowadays, you could get a bus in 15 minutes. It's just constant.
Right.
You could hop on the C train. You can get from one end of the city pretty easily. But back in our day, it could take an hour or 2 hours to get from one end of the city to the other. So back in our day, the requirement or the urgency to get our license was pretty high, just so that we could get around. Sometimes back in our day, just walking to our destination, we'd get there faster than taking the bus, just because we have to wait for the bus, right? So that's the first thing. The other thing is, back in my day, I got a job for $2.25, and I was happy with that. $3.25, $4.20, it was pretty amazing back then. And things were relative to income as well. I think things are relative to income right now too. People make $20, $25, $30 an hour. I know the minimum wage here is $15 an hour. But I do believe that things are pretty relative. And maybe that is my own personal opinion. I'm a single person, always been, paid my own mortgage, had 2 kids, raised them by myself. I do okay. And I don't understand the angst that we are giving the children that are behind us, because we all had to struggle, and it wasn't pretty when I was growing up and became an adult, and it wasn't easy. And I'm not saying it's easy now. I just don't think it's as hard as people are claiming it to be, I guess.
Okay. Thank you for your call. Good to hear from you today. I have to stop here, however, and we'll be right back. We're talking about Gen Z today. Tell me about Gen Z, your experiences, either raising Gen Z, working alongside Gen Z. Tell us a little bit about it, please. 1-833-668-2577. This is Talk Back on News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
I don't know the kids these days, Gen Z, people born between 97 and 2012. What makes them tick? What's important to them? What do they want out of life? Do you think their life is harder than we had it? Dave, up next in Calgary. Hello, Dave. You're up next, Dave.
Well, hi, Rob.
Yeah, good to hear from you, Dave. Go ahead. Hi, Dave. Tell me about Gen Z, Dave.
A couple of observations more than anything, Rob, about the fact that Gen Z has been so exposed to social media as is caused a different way for them to perceive news and events. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I think I'm a boomer. So I think as boomers, when we're trying to communicate and understand, we need to be mindful of the fact that how they consume media, how they consume information, how they form opinions and perceptions is pretty important, because they are the first generation to really be immersed in social media, to the exclusion of some other sources, shall I say.
Oh, yeah, sure. Like, they're not like us and sitting around in the living room watching the local 6 o'clock news on television. They don't do that.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I just find it interesting.
Just
that
different.
Maybe. Yeah, and there's a feeling that if they didn't see it on whatever, Snap or Instagram or Facebook, or I guess although Facebook's for old people like me.
Right.
If it didn't happen or they don't see it there, they may not be aware of it, or they don't believe it's real. And that's a broad generalization, but I've noticed that. I have a 16-year-old grandson who I'm grateful that he talks openly to my wife and I, and I learn a lot from him about it, and I try to be open-minded about it. But I also another thing I've noticed is that Gen Z seems kind of open to talking honestly about generational differences. So they don't view boomers or X or, I mean, if you think about it, now you've got boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, and now Gen Alpha, all coexisting now with awareness of each other, again, through social media and, broad discussion methods. But they're more open, I find, to talking about it and not getting offended by it. I mean, some people will, because that's an upbringing thing or a personal thing. But I found my grandson,
because the knock against the younger generation is that they're too easily offended. They take offense too easily. Everything offends them.
Well, that's true, and there are people out there, though, Rob, that are looking to be offended.
I suppose.
Of all generations. But all I'm saying is the world ain't going to end. These guys are fine, and they're
kids are all right. Okay. Good message to end this hour on. Thank you. That's hopeful. Dave in Calgary. More of your calls right after the latest breaking news as we talk about Gen Z today on Talk Back.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2. We've been trying something a little different today. We've been just talking about one generation and one generation only. That's Gen Z. That's people between 13 and 28. Okay, so young teenagers and fully grown adults. But we want to know what makes them tick, what's important to them, what do they like, what do they want in life? Is their life harder? Is their life harder than it was for previous generations? What about these stereotypes? How accurate are they? Always online, addicted to the phones, addicted to social media, short attention spans. Any truth to that? They're lazy, don't have the same work ethic. Any truth to that? Hop from job to job. No sense of loyalty to an employer. Want big money, don't want to put in the work. Easily offended. Constant supervision. They need constant supervision, constant validation. Woke. They're woke. Are these stereotypes accurate? It's just one angle of the conversation. Tell us about Gen Z. Tell us about that person you know. Maybe you're that person. Between the ages of 13 and 28. What makes them tick? 1-833-668-2577. Right back to the phones. Let's get to Ifo in Halifax. Ifo.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Well, that's good. That's good.
I'm in a unique situation in that I started university in 1990, left for a while, and then went back, and then I graduated in 2016.
Okay.
So I have the advantage of experiencing multiple generations and seeing how the economy has messed things up. I remember when minimum wage in Atlantic Canada was about $4.25 or $4.75. And you could get a place to rent a 2 or 3 bedroom for less than $500. Now minimum wage is about $1,500, and you can barely get a 1 bedroom for $1,500. I remember the people who started university with me in the 90s and graduated were able to buy homes for under $100K. You can't find anything in Halifax for under $400.
Wow. Okay.
And then people talk about the loyalty for employee, no loyalty from the younger generation. The question is, do we have loyalty of the employers to the employees?
Are the employers worthy of the loyalty, you mean? Are they treating their employees well enough that they deserve loyalty? Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah,
look at the massive layoffs. You look at all the labor strikes that are going on, where even those who are unionized are finding, whether that be Canada Post or Air Canada, the employers themselves are showing that they do not care about the workers. Meanwhile, the CEOs of the big wigs management are getting big raises when it's the workers. I'm a union person, by the way, just in case you haven't noticed. So I think we have the situation where the employers the employers do not deserve the loyalty because they don't show any loyalty to the workers. And then I think there's also the younger generation is not willing to take the sort of abuse in the workplace that the older generation sort of normalized. There's a lot of toxic workplaces where the boss just did all kinds of things. You had management who were abusive, whether that be verbally, physically, all kinds of things. And the younger generation is not tolerating it anymore. And so I think that's a good thing. I think we need to have.
You think that's a good thing? Okay, but it certainly sounds as though you think the younger generation, I'm talking about Gen Z here, does have it harder. You've cited economic reasons, wages not keeping up with the cost of living, the cost of housing, for example. You would think that that's a challenge, right?
That's definitely. That's if you can find a job. Most people are not even working in the degrees that they studied because there's not enough places hiring anymore. So it's all over the place, right? You can have a degree, but you're working at McDonald's or Tim Hortons. Not there's anything wrong with working there, but you might as well have skipped school if that's where you're going to end up. You know what I mean? And then you end up with
it's very bleak. Your outlook is very bleak. No,
I think that what I'm looking forward to is more and more young people getting involved in the labor movement, joining.
Oh, really?
Unions,
Okay.
Organizing. I'm seeing more and more of that. And I see a lot of hope in that because we
all right.
Workers,
we've got some other callers to get to. It's actually starting to pick up here on this topic. Ifo, I thank you for your call. I'm not a union guy, but I'll say, solidarity to you. Thank you for your call. 1-833-668-2577. 3 lines available there, though. Where are we going next? Conrad in Red Deer, Alberta. Let's try Conrad here. See if Conrad is there. Hi, Conrad.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
I'm good, Conrad. Thanks for calling. What's your opinion on Gen Z? Okay,
I got 2 lines of thought. The first one on purpose. I'll never bash somebody for wanting to have purpose, but I would hope that they have a fine line between saving the world and being a little bit selfish because, for example, for me, there was jobs I worked at that I would absolutely not be a part of, even though I made a half-decent amount of money. I still focused on finding something that I was happy with and that I was willing to do. And then on my second line is I employ several Gen Zers, and I've had some of them work for me for 8 years, starting at 18 years old, and they all still live at home, and they are making upwards of $35 an hour. And I just wish I had that opportunity for myself to be able to bank or have that form of income for that many years. And there needs to be, I guess, some instruction of discipline for these youth to actually put their money into high interest savings accounts or save the money up because, yes, things are expensive, but at that, having that freedom and that luxury of being able to bank the money, you shouldn't complain after.
But I don't know. Like, what's a 1-bedroom in Red Deer going for, or what's a decent, even like a townhouse or something in Red Deer going for? Is it $300,000
for a townhouse?
Right.
Yeah. Cost of ownership, rent is $200,000. Yeah.
Okay.
$2,000 a month to rent a townhouse.
Maybe they are squirreling that money away because that's the kind of money it's taking these days in a lot of parts of the country in order to get out there on your own and have a secure place to live where you're not month to month thinking, oh my gosh, this is the last month I have a roof over my head. Am I going to be back with my parents or on the street or whatever the case might be?
And, I think $35 to $38 an hour is a decent wage for somebody who
you would think. You would think this you're talking about $65,000, $66,000 a year.
Yes, that's correct. And with overtime, these guys are making $120,000, $130,000 a year. So it's just, I guess, purposely, and saying that there's not a lot of jobs out there. Hey, we're always hiring. We always want to get guys out here and working, and girls, and just It seems like you can go anywhere and get a job in Alberta right now. So.
Okay. All right, Conrad. Good to hear from you. Thanks for taking part in the conversation today. Really appreciate it. Be right back on Talkback. Hour number 2. Tell me about Gen Z. Tell me about Gen Z on Talkback today on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Tell me about Gen Z, Gen Z. Some people call them Zoomers. Born between 97 and 2012. Is their life harder than, say, the life you had? What would you say? Steve in Calgary is a first-time caller. Thanks for calling, Steve. Glad
hey, how are you doing?
Part of the discussion today. I'm just great. Thank you. What's your opinion here?
Thank you. Good day to everyone that's listening. I'm a boomer, born 1959. Okay. I have 6 kids ranging from 45-year-old, my oldest that lives in the UK, to my youngest 3-year-old that lives here with us in Calgary. I came to Calgary 18 years ago from the UK. One of my sons is 27-year-old. He works in airdrie. He has to do like 50, 60 hours a week, and his wife has to do the same 50, 60 hours a week just to have a reasonable standard of living. Now, when I look back at when I was that age, I worked 40, 45 hours a week, and my wife stayed at home. We had a reasonable standard of living. We had a 3-bedroom detached house. When I wanted to buy that house, I went into the building society. Can I get a loan for a house? It's £20,000. That figure, £20,000, was achievable. It wasn't a lot. It was like, okay, yeah, we can do that, even on one income. So now it's a lot harder for people these days, purely because of the amount. You look at the amount of a house, look at these new houses going up, little wood boxes, and they say 2 to 3 bedroom townhouse or condo starting at 400,000. That amount, it's very hard to achieve, to see it.
Right. And it reached for a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, even though back then, okay, people go, okay, no, it's a lot easier now. We've got internet, we've got this, we've got that. It's a lot harder now. And because of the population of the planet, 8 billion, now greed. It's all down to greed. It's not inflation, it's greed. Greedy people. They don't want to make just $1 million. Like when I was in my 20s, $1 million, like, wow, that'd be good. Let's see if we can achieve that. Now, it's like, well, how can we make 100 million, 1 billion? It's like the crazy figures. People are just gone crazy. They just want, it's total greed, and you can't call it inflation. It's gone crazy, and I'm really sad for the next generations. I'm sad for my son, sad for my younger. I have a son 6, daughter 3, and I'm sad for them because this is what we've done as society. Right. This is what we've done to them. Right?
All right.
It's not fair.
Steve, thank you. Yeah, you would say life is harder by the sounds of it. Thank you so much. I want to take another first-time caller. It's Joanne on the line. Hello, Joanne. You're up next. Joanne?
Oh, how are you?
Just great, Joanne. Thank you. Tell me about Gen Z. Your opinion, please.
Well, I have one downstairs in the basement. He works. He games most of the rest of the day. But I've got a little bit of experience with those Zoomers. One thing I'm concerned about is the replacement of knowledge for experience. And I see that a lot. They go online, they learn about this, they learn about that, but they don't want to experience it because they've researched it so much that they don't think they're going to like it. And so a lot of times I see that they don't want to.
What do you mean by that? If you could, do you have an example in mind? I'm just curious.
For example, my son, he's 28 years old. He's downstairs. He won't get his driver's license. I've never seen anything like it. At 16 years old, I was in line for my driver's license.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier, yeah.
Yeah, he's researched it so much, and he's so concerned about road rage and whatever else. He won't even attempt to try and get the license to experience and open up his life for more opportunity. And so they almost shut themselves off a little bit, like they're fearful of a lot of things. And my second point is, who tells them the purpose, what their purpose is? That's the problem. They think they need to decide if it's purposeful. So if you ask them to go clean something in the corner over there, they're going to say, well, it's just going to get dirty tomorrow. What's the purpose? What's the reason?
Okay.
So again, that's that knowledge that they think they know a lot more than what they do. So I'm just concerned about, like I said, that social media aspect where they're learning things on social media, but physically not going out there and trying it and doing it.
Very interesting. Okay. I hope this does not cause friction in your household, this call that you've placed today. Joanne, thank you so much for sharing your experiences today on Gen Z. Lots of time to fit you in, of course. Another half hour ahead and a little bit more. 1-833-668-2577. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Asking for your opinions on Gen Z and information about Gen Z. What makes them tick? What's important to them? Do you think their life is harder, easier, about the same as it was for previous generations? Tom in Cambridge is up next. Hi, Tom.
How are you?
I'm good, Tom. Thanks.
Hello?
Go ahead. What's your opinion, please? Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Well, whatever they're making, I want to advise everybody, save your money because it's not going to get it easier. And it's going to be very hard for them. And I just want them to take a look. Like anybody that's telling you that it's better, it's not. We're headed towards doomsday with everything else that's happening in the country.
Okay,
if
I
they
don't know
can
about
get
that.
if they can get the income tax down by 10%, it might help them. But you had yesterday about the fires. It's too late.
Sure. Yeah, wildfires. Yeah.
And I'm glad because you're touching on important current topics.
Well, we're trying to.
The one that I would suggest is just keep, because Trump, all he wants is to take over the country. But these guys are going that we need.
Yeah, you're veering all over the place today, Tom. We're asking a very specific topic today. But, fair enough. You're saying, if you think life is tough now, wait, you ain't seen nothing yet. Fair enough. That's your assessment. Let's go to Anand in Calgary, or Anand in Calgary. Up next on Talkback.
Hi, good afternoon, Rob. How are you?
Oh, hi. Yes, hi. I recognize your voice there. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, good to hear from you.
What would you say about Gen Z?
So I'm part of the Gen Z group. I am 24 years old now, born in 2001. So I think there are both mix of some that are true, some that are still stereotypes. For example, I do work that I enjoy doing the most. So that's broadcasting. I've been doing lacrosse commentary, play-by-play. I've been doing hockey broadcasting. So if it's something that you enjoy doing, you continue to work. I sometimes pick up maybe like two or three games per day to do commentary for, so something that I enjoy doing. So I do my best, do my research and all in advance. So there is that fact of working hard. I've been saving money as well. I know life will get tougher, like Tom said in the earlier call. So I've been starting to save money as well to buy a house in the future. So I think, and then I've seen different types of teenagers around. I used to work in the retail industry as well as a cashier at KFC and Taco Bell. So I've seen there are different types of teenagers, but I would say collectively most groups of teenagers are working hard and always like doing what they love doing.
Thank you so much. Good to hear from you again.
Yeah, good to hear from you.
All the
Thank
best
so
to you
much.
in your career journeys. Be right back. We're talking about Gen Z today. Gen Z, Zoomers. What makes them tick? Is life harder for them than it was for you? Share your opinion, please, at 1-833-668-2577. The latest breaking news is next on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We have been talking about Gen Z today. What makes Gen Z tick with your help? The younger generation, the kids these days, born between 1997 and 2012, Gen Z are now between the ages of 13 and 28. We're asking you, in your experience, what's important to them? What do they want out of life? And is life harder for Gen Z than it was for previous generations? Is it easier? Maybe there's a case to be made there. Is it about the same? All generations face their challenges. Lots of time to take your call here on Talkback today. 1-833-668-2577. 4 lines available, so the wait won't be long at all. We'd love to hear from you today. Let's go to Gordon, who's called in from near Calgary today. Hello, Gordon.
How you doing?
Just great, Gordon. All the better for hearing from you today. Hear you just fine, Gordon. What would you say about Gen Z?
Okay, they haven't got any harder than what we did, but they have higher expectations. When they go looking for a house or a job, they want top dollars, not afraid. They're afraid to work for minimum wage or a little bit better. Like we've got 2 employees here. One's 40, he's got to be in his early 40s. He moves so doggone slow, a dead man could pass him, but he's getting very good wages. And yet my grandson and my granddaughter, you can't get her fired up unless she wants to do something. My grandson, he works his butt off, and he knows how to save a buck or two. Granddaughter, she's not even interested in getting money, unless she's yelled at and threatened. A lot of the kids, you got to blame the parents. Oh, we don't want you to work as hard as to get what you wanted. Well, sorry, suck it up, princess, but get your butt in gear and work. Find something.
Okay.
And
okay.
Also,
some might make the case, that's Gordon. That's Gordon. He's just old school. You're just old school, Gordon.
Yeah, I am. What's wrong with that?
No, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I'm just wondering how you would respond to it.
You only get what you get. You only get what out of life for what you put in.
Okay. So you would say they have unrealistic expectations.
Yes, and also a lot of these people, like when they're buying houses, and some of it's on the home buyer themselves, but a lot of it's the developers, because they have to have granite tops, fancy flooring, all this, which the developers get more money on a cut. And if they put up with arborite countertops and stuff like that, sure, that's a starter home. We started out with that stuff. When we started out in a house that was built in 1920. And we do with what we got, and we've worked our butts off to live. But the kids, they got to have everything now all the time. Like
you think they want the granite countertops and the stainless steel appliances and the hardwood floor and whatever, right? Maybe a pool in the backyard or something.
They like it. It's nice. But the developers also get a bigger cut, the more fancy stuff.
Sure.
Cut.
Yeah.
So it's everybody's to blame for it, as far as I'm concerned. But if they want to work their butt off, like my grandson, he works away from home 2 or 3 times a week. And around home there, he's busier than a cat in a hot tin roof.
Okay. All right. But you think, the expectations don't match generally speaking, the expectations don't match the work ethic, is what you're saying, right?
No.
That'd be a fair assumption?
Yeah, they want more than what they're expecting. Too much for nothing.
Expecting too much for nothing. Fair enough. Okay, that's your assessment. We'll put it to the test here in the home stretch of Talkback. Dave is a first-time caller. Dave, you're on the line. Hi, Dave.
Hey, how you doing?
Just great, Dave. Gen Z, tell me about your experience or opinion on Gen Z.
You know, I have children in that range. I even lost one child directly in that thing due to fentanyl. I'm pretty acutely aware of how these young ones think, and at the same time, I used to do business and stock market reports, and I was on the air for a long time while these young ones were born. Everybody's being too hard on them. They're just they got their thing right. They have expectations. I'm the adopted son of an immigrant family from England post World War II, and I'm obviously a baby boomer, and I look at it as I could not have been given a better opportunity. And now that I listen to some of your callers saying they're earning $35, $40 an hour, blah, blah, 65, 100K a year, the opportunity's there. And we got to support these kids, because to buy a $400,000 condo, they need $100,000 down. How do they save that?
Right. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if they would need $100,000 down. Might, maybe 40.
Okay. Well, that's 25%.
Even if it's 40, even if it's 40, yeah.
Yeah. Well, think about it. It's not easy to save $40,000 because they got lifestyles and they're swayed by so many exterior influences and things that don't mean anything. I think it's my obligation to support these young people to the very best of my capability and get them. You can't help them all, but if you can help a few and make some families that build some things, you've done something really well, Mr. Snow. Very well.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree, Dave. Yep, not much to disagree with there. Thank you so much for your call, taking part in the conversation. Glad we could fit you in, and we have time to fit more callers in as well. It's Talkback, chatting about Gen Z, the Zoomers today. Share your thoughts, please, at 1-833-668-2577 here on News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Okay, so everyone knows we're talking about Gen Z today. Your thoughts on Gen Z? Life harder for Gen Z? What does Gen Z want out of life? Your experiences, please. Cal in Calgary. Thanks for waiting, Cal. Up next on line one there. Cal.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, hi, Cal. What would you say?
Hey. Well, I think a fundamental issue is everybody knows everything. Nobody learns anything. How many feet is it? How many feet is it to the moon, Rob? I don't know. You probably don't know.
I don't know. No, I don't know.
You just ask Google, and you know the answer. And it's the same with anything. So nobody really learns anything because everybody knows everything, right? It's one question away. How do you change a transmission? Well, anybody can figure it out. You just Google it, and it'll give you a step-by-step instruction where nobody seems to really learn anything because everybody knows everything already. It's just that easy. And
by the way, it's I just asked AI how many feet is it to the moon. It's 1.26 billion feet. In case anybody's wants the answer to that question. But that's how to your point. That's how easy it was, right?
That's exactly it. Where nobody really learns anything anymore because it's too easy. You don't have to learn things. You just ask the question and you got the answer right there. And I think with younger people, I've got two sons and they've got families and I've got grandkids, and social media is, I sound like an old guy for sure, but social media is a great tool but I think it's been manipulated in a wrong way for younger people, because all these influencers, they only show the 1% or 2% of the fantastic part of their life. They don't show the rest of the normal trials and tribulations that people have throughout their life. They only show the rock star stuff that puts out that persona to young people that, hey, if you're not, vacationing once a month or driving a Rolls Royce or, having stacks of cash and doing all these exciting things, then you're a failure. You haven't achieved anything, because these other people, that's all they do all day long.
Right. So the social media is creating unrealistic expectations for people.
Well,
they have to if they're not living a certain lifestyle, don't look a certain way, aren't dressing a certain way, eating in certain restaurants or going to certain clubs or whatever, then they're not worthy.
Well, I think that's the impression it's giving to younger people. And
sure, so I think it's a totally fair point.
When you have a pickup truck that's, $100,000, a starter home that's somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000, I think it's depressing for young people. They don't have a hope unless they have some help from family or friends or whatnot to even get into that life where, it wasn't that many years ago, you could work hard and you can achieve things and you can acquire things and be the medium in life. Now it's difficult to maintain a 1-bedroom apartment and, take Ubers here and there.
Yeah, let alone go to the moon. All right, Cal, thank you for your call. Let's go to first-time caller Christy up next on Talkback. Hello, Christy. Hi, Christy.
Hi there.
What's your opinion here?
I just wanted to comment. I have 2 Gen Z kids, 23 and 26. I also have a 29-year-old. But my thoughts on Gen Z from just my own children and their friends and the people they're connected with is that they are very hardworking, motivated, ambitious people, young people we're handing off our world to, and they have such a unique, fresh perspective on how to treat people, how to care for the environment, how they're connected with social causes. They are, they just, I have to sit back and let myself be teachable as someone from another generation and and let them speak into our lives, because it isn't just as parents that we have the honor of teaching and directing and leading our kids. They really do have some things to pass on to us that are really fabulous. We all live in our family home. Our kids have not moved out because they are saving and working hard for their futures. But everyone is contributing. Everyone cooks and drives and gardens and takes care of our pets and does chores, and everyone is very actively involved in all of the facets of our home. I just think that a lot of youth need a lot more advocacy.
Okay. What a very hopeful call. Thank you so much, Christy, for calling and sharing that opinion. Be right back. Take a few more calls and wind things down for this edition of Talkback here on News Radio.
Something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yeah, we have been asking What do you think? Is Canada moving in the right direction or the wrong direction? Share your opinion. What would you say? 1-833-668-2577. Jody's on the line. Hi there, Jody. What would you say?
Hey, Rob. First of all, the Blue Jays just came back. They're up 9-5 against Baltimore. Right on.
Okay. All right. That's good news.
We're back to a winning streak, hopefully. Anyway.
Fingers crossed.
I think that, to be honest, like the country's not moving in the right direction still, because you still got a Liberal government that was actually part of the Trudeau's government, like, you know. So and Carney, whatever, he hasn't done squat diddly, you know what, since he's like what's he doing? Like, he's just traveling around and doing this and doing that. Immigration's still through the roof. According to Michelle Ruppel-Gardner, they're letting in migrants from the United States who are scared to be deported, so and they're letting them into Canada. Like, I mean, I just I'm not prejudiced.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm in Quebec, so I read Journal de Montréal every day, and they had a big story today at Roxham Road, Saint Bernard de la Colle, which was that popular crossing for Americans crossing into Quebec. They go down there, or they send their reporters down there all the time. They've got a picture in the paper today of these. They've set up like these what do you call it? Like, they look like construction trailers or whatever, where the authorities are processing these people coming across the border from the United States, for crying out loud. We're not supposed to take refugees from the United States.
Yeah, I thought I thought migrants that were coming over, we're coming over like from countries that were at war, or they were being they were in danger and stuff. Now but now they're coming in over from the States because they don't like Trump and they're scared of Trump, whatever. So they're coming to Canada, and the odds are they'll be in Canada for a long time. And so the immigration problem is not getting any better. And I'm not prejudiced, but holy God, you got to draw a line somewhere here.
Well, even the official number for the immigration target, which doesn't even include refugees, it's 673,000 for 2025. 673,000.
Yeah, that's just too much. I mean,
it's like economic immigrants. Family reunification. It includes 83,000 temporary foreign workers and 306,000 international students. 673,000.
Yeah, that's all right.
And it's about the social capacity, Jody, and we've talked about this before, and I think we're going to have to wrap this up. I mean, these are the issues that haunted the Trudeau government, that chased Justin Trudeau from power to the point where the only meaningful news about Justin Trudeau nowadays is what pop star he's having dinner with at restaurants in Montreal.
Yeah,
a lot of these issues that he couldn't fix are going to be big problems for the country. And politically, big challenges for Mark Carney. Lots of talk about it's going to be a big new construction boom in housing. Well, housing construction is quite weak right now. We're on pace to build 280,000 new housing starts this year. We need at least 500,000. We have an immigration target of 673,000. How do you solve the housing crisis if you have a disconnect there? It's kind of madness. You don't solve a housing affordability crisis overnight. You don't slam the door shut on immigration overnight. We've heard it already. Crime is still an issue. Revolving door justice, still an issue. These are the things where Mark Carney's going to have to show some progress. So the honeymoon that he enjoys right now could be over when Parliament is back. Thank you for all of your calls today. Final score: 10-6. 10-6 for the wrongs. Back tomorrow with a brand new topic and more of your calls on Talkback. The news is next on News Radio.